Scott Peterson, the husband who betrayed Christmas. True crime documentary series. A California Christmas disappears. December 24th, 2002, Modesto, California. While most families were celebrating the holiday spirit, decorating trees, and wrapping last-minute presents, one family was facing the unthinkable. Laci Peterson, 27 years old and 8 months pregnant, was missing. She was last seen walking her golden retriever, Mackenzie, through the neighborhood. That was the story her husband, Scott Peterson, told police and the media. But something didn't feel right. Her car was still in the driveway. Her purse was still in the house. The dog had returned, with its leash still on. And Scott, his behavior was off. Neighbors noted his lack of urgency. Friends whispered that his demeanor didn't reflect the panic of a man whose pregnant wife had just vanished. And then, the first cracks began to show. The picture-perfect couple, Laci and Scott Peterson, had what many called a picture-perfect marriage. They met at California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo. Laci, a vibrant horticulture major, was immediately drawn to Scott's charisma and confidence. He was studying agricultural business, and the two shared an ambitious outlook on life. After marrying in 1997, they moved to Modesto, where they bought a home in a quiet, middle-class neighborhood. Laci worked as a substitute teacher while preparing to become a full-time mother. Scott worked in fertilizer sales, though he sometimes exaggerated his success to friends and family. They were excited about starting a family. Laci, a meticulous planner, had already decorated the nursery and chosen baby clothes. The name was picked, Connor. She spoke often about her future, how she couldn't wait to be a mother, to friends and family. It seemed like a joyful time. But for Scott, that joy may have felt more like a trap. The day she vanished. According to Scott, he left the house around 9:30 a.m. to go fishing at the Berkeley Marina. He said Laci planned to walk the dog and then bake cookies for their holiday guests. That evening, when she didn't show up for a family dinner, panic began to spread. Her stepfather reported her missing. The Modesto Police Department responded quickly. They noted nothing in the home appeared disturbed. No signs of forced entry. No struggle. Just a pregnant woman gone. Volunteers poured into Modesto from nearby cities. Flyers were posted on telephone poles and storefronts. Local TV ran continuous updates. The country began to follow the story. As police began piecing together a timeline, Scott's inconsistencies multiplied. His story shifted. And quietly, investigators began focusing their attention on him. The lie unravels. It didn't take long for things to fall apart. Reporters began asking hard questions. Why would someone go fishing 90 miles away on Christmas Eve? Why was he so calm? And what exactly was he hiding? That's when the bombshell dropped. Scott was having an affair. Amber Frey came forward in early January 2003. A 27-year-old massage therapist from Fresno. She told police she had no idea Scott was married, let alone that his wife was missing. He had told her he was single. And shockingly, he told her this would be his first Christmas without a wife 2 weeks before Laci vanished. Amber agreed to record her conversations with Scott. What those tapes revealed was chilling. A man continuing to woo another woman, making travel plans and expressing romantic dreams, all while the nation searched for his pregnant wife. He never mentioned Laci, never mentioned Connor, just himself. Media frenzy and suspicion. As Amber's recordings made headlines, public opinion turned sharply. Scott wasn't a grieving husband. He was a cheating one. The media dubbed him a narcissist, a sociopath, even a monster. He attended candlelight vigils, but people noticed he was always on the phone, often with Amber. His appearance on TV was cold, rehearsed, distant. While Laci's family wept in front of cameras, Scott offered flat statements and a polite smile. It didn't add up. Soon, police discovered Scott had sold Laci's car. He'd looked into selling their house, and he was researching deep-sea fishing tides. It was as if he was preparing for life after Laci, before she was even gone. Amber Frey, the unlikely key witness. Amber became the emotional anchor of the trial, an unsuspecting woman who found herself in the center of a national nightmare. She told the court about how Scott had pretended to be a grieving, lonely man, feeding her lie after lie. Her decision to cooperate with police was pivotal. Many saw her as brave, risking personal and professional fallout to expose the truth. She testified calmly, even when Scott avoided eye contact. Her recordings helped paint a portrait of a man who had compartmentalized his life to an extreme degree. The bodies are found. Months passed. Spring came. And then came the grisly discovery. On April 13th, 2003, a couple walking along the shoreline of San Francisco Bay found the body of a newborn baby. The next day, the torso of a woman washed ashore nearby. The remains were heavily decomposed, but DNA testing confirmed the worst. They belonged to Laci Peterson and her unborn son, Connor. Scott's alibi, fishing in that same bay, now became damning. Within days, Scott was arrested. Police found him in La Jolla, California. He had dyed his hair, grown a beard, and was carrying cash, camping equipment, and multiple IDs. To many, it looked like he was trying to flee, possibly to Mexico. His behavior spoke volumes. The trial, a nation watches. The trial began in June 2004 in Redwood City. It was moved from Modesto due to overwhelming publicity. The prosecution had no physical evidence, no eyewitnesses, but they had motive. They had the affair, they had the lies, and they had the bodies, found right where he had gone fishing. Amber Frey testified, playing the recordings of Scott calling her while pretending to be a grieving husband in public. The defense focused on the lack of forensic evidence. They claimed Laci may have been abducted by strangers. They pointed to rumors of a burglary near the Peterson home. They suggested the media frenzy had created a presumption of guilt. The prosecution, however, showed a timeline that left little room for doubt. The lies were too many, the behavior too suspicious, and the circumstantial evidence too damning. In November 2004, Scott Peterson was convicted of first-degree murder for Laci and second-degree murder for Connor. He was sentenced to death. Aftermath and ongoing appeals. Scott's legal team didn't stop fighting. Over the years, they filed numerous appeals, focusing on alleged juror misconduct and media bias. In 2020, the California Supreme Court overturned his death sentence, citing improper jury selection. In 2021, a lower court agreed to review the entire conviction. Scott remains in prison, but no longer on death row. His appeals continue, and so does the debate. Some believe he was tried by media. Others believe the lack of physical evidence cast doubt. But to most, the lies, the affair, the flight, all point to guilt. What kind of man kills his pregnant wife? Psychologists say Scott Peterson fits the profile of a family annihilator. These are men who feel trapped by responsibility, image, or fear of failure. They don't explode in rage. They calculate, they plan, and they lie. To them, murder feels like a solution, a way out. Scott wanted a new life with Amber Frey. He wanted freedom without the shame of divorce, without the financial burden, without the image hit. And in his mind, erasing his family was easier than facing the truth. The legacy of Laci and Connor. Laci's family created the Laci Peterson Foundation to support victims of domestic violence and missing persons. Their fight turned grief into advocacy. Connor's law was proposed to recognize unborn victims of violence in federal crimes. The case also transformed media coverage of crime. Cable news ran wall-to-wall coverage. Nancy Grace and others built careers dissecting the case. It became a cultural touchstone for betrayal, deception, and the illusion of the perfect family. Final reflection. Scott Peterson fooled many people for a long time. Friends described him as polite, smart, and loving. But behind the charm was a man willing to kill to preserve his image. This case reminds us that appearances are deceiving, that manipulation can wear a smile, and that silence in relationships can be deadly. If someone in your life consistently lies, controls your actions, or gaslights your reality, it may not be love. It may be danger. Speak up. Don't ignore your gut. Because sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us are the ones we need protecting from. Thank you for joining us for this extended documentary episode. If you found this story impactful, Please like, share, and subscribe for more real-life cases that reveal the darkest corners of human behavior. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and always trust your instincts.